welcome to Shoot Me Straight. Dave Fields, Eddie Gallagher. We're back together.
That's it? Yeah. That's it, huh?
That's it. Just
That's the only people
and
here.
we have Mason Fowler.
The man, the myth, the legend, back again.
You got to give me a better introduction than that.
Dude, dang. That was we
The
got
one!
The only.
The only!
Eddie and Dave and
Mason.
Mason's here.
Mason Fowler! He's Mason's here.
Mason's here.
No, man. So, no, we're glad to have you back. Yeah, it's always awesome when you're in town.
Thanks so much for having me. I love it out here.
Yeah. You were just saying this might be your second pick to move to at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Dave's done a good job of convincing me, and then obviously the area is beautiful, and it's it's a lot of money here as well.
Yeah,
the prices, your membership prices for your jiu-jitsu school can probably be a little bit higher here than Fresno, California, but I just my gut feeling is telling me I got to just go home and just bring everything that I've done and bring everything that I've learned and bring it back to my hometown.
Yeah.
My mom's out there as well, and some of my other family members. So,
well, yeah, you want to be close to family too if you're going to be in one spot.
Yeah. I used to teach a pretty big kids class out there too, so I had a pretty close relationship with a lot of the kids and the families. I was like going to the birthday parties and stuff like that, and now it's like a lot of the kids are like grown up and they're following me, messaging me on Instagram like, Coach Mason, when are you coming back? And I'm like, fuck, I got to go back and now it's going to be, they're just going to be my adults. They're not even going to be kids anymore, but.
Yeah.
Go back to all my old students, I think would be pretty cool after all this time.
Heck yeah, keep forming little killers. Yeah.
And then just business-wise too, like I grew up in Fresno, I went to high school there. So I think if there's any city, that's probably the one that the most amount of people probably know who I am.
Yeah. So, it's rare that you're rare in the sense of, or maybe not rare, but not always do you have top-level competitors that are also really good at teaching.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
Some guys are really great competitors, but teaching's a different skill.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a couple factors. Like one thing obviously is that I was teaching from a young age.
Yeah.
So, some of it is probably genetic, just like your ability to explain things, just kind of, some of it is natural, but I do have a lot of experience teaching as well. I started teaching when I was like 23, when I was a purple belt, and I was teaching a lot of classes. And at one point I was even kind of like, basically like the head jiu-jitsu coach of a pretty big jiu-jitsu program. So I have a lot of experience teaching. And then on top of that, like I've been with my coach, Caio Terra, for the last 6 years. I've always been around really good coaches, but the past 6 years I've been with Caio Terra, and he's known as one of the best technicians in jiu-jitsu. So just being able to pick up his teaching style and his technique and his curriculum, and I've been teaching at his academy, learning the curriculum. So being able to bring all that as well, all that knowledge. It's like I went to Harvard and got a master's degree. You know what I mean? It's not something that's like super common or super easy to come by. So I think the combination of those things, and then also like now I've been teaching seminars for the last 3 years or so, and a big part of teaching too is just being able to speak like in front of groups of people, like public speaking. So the fact that I'm really comfortable there as well. So, sometimes like a jiu-jitsu coach, even if you don't know what you're talking about, if you sound super confident and you speak well, then you can be a good coach. That goes with everything. Yeah. That goes a long way.
Yeah, that's when I instruct shooting and all that stuff. Like, yeah, it's very a lot of similarities, but like I'll have dudes, tier 1 operators, dudes are shit hot, but they can't disseminate information one bit. Like they can sit up there and demonstrate and be like, holy shit, this guy. But then when you have him explain like, hey, okay, now teach it. They're like, yeah, man, just do this, just do it. And I do remember the last time you were here, we did some things together, and I really like appreciated the way that you disseminated the information while we were drilling, because it wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't, because like some courses I go to, jiu-jitsu courses or classes, some of the professors, it's like when they're drilling moves or they're showing you things, they'll put out like 5 different things and they'll be like, okay, now go. And you're like, dude, I don't remember the first thing that you said. I remember last time we're like, you'd focus on 2 things and then we drill those 2 things and then you would attach another 2 things once you got comfortable with that, but it all melded together at the end. And I was like, oh, that's the way I learn but if it's too much, I'm like, dude, I don't even know I don't remember the first 2 things that you put out. And I you get that a lot in jiu-jitsu classes where the professor's like, all right, go practice it. And then there's like that half the class is staring at each other like, do you remember? And you're just sort of like trying to figure it out.
Or they'll explain too much background stuff too. They're like, the reason you do this and that. And a lot of times you'll just be like, no, move your leg on this side. Yeah, this is how you do it. And then if they want to know more, then they'll ask you a bunch of more questions, and then you'll explain it later. But you don't like give them all this information they didn't ask for.
Yeah. There's a fine line between like explaining something and explaining why, and then just like ranting. I do definitely catch myself ranting sometimes. Like I'll be like, oh my God, how long have I been talking for? But I do try to keep it kind of like straight to the point. I try my best.
I think it's also being like a good teacher is socially aware and of like, okay, not everybody learns the same. So being able to, when you're disseminating information, be like, okay, I can explain it to like this group this way, and then I have these 5 over here that I'm going to have to like break it down a little bit more for. But if you're able to do that without like breaking stride when you're instructing, that's like a gift, which is hard for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, and sometimes like this is one thing I do that I just think is like pretty funny is like, you know, some of the techniques are so detailed, and it's like sometimes you have that one guy, you know, David, that you're just like, I'm like, he's got it like 70%. I'm like, all right, that's acceptable. Let's just like, let him be okay with like, enough. For now that's good enough.
David, acceptable fields. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to like, I'm not taking you to the world championships anytime soon, you know? Let's get like, you got the concept of it down. Like it might not be perfect, but it's kind of like good enough for me.
Yeah. And you want to build that confidence in them too. Like, hey, okay, you're doing good enough, you know, even though it could be.
It's good, bro.
Yeah.
Keep doing your thing. Yeah. Perfect. Wouldn't change a thing.
Don't try that out on the street though. All right.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's important too. Like, you know, building someone's confidence, and it's almost like if they believe that they can do it, it's going to work more.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was great, man. You're going to hit that every time in this class.
Positive reinforcement is huge, I think, especially for a lot of people. I mean, there's a certain group of individuals, I think, that are more maybe in our spectrum where it's like you're super competitive and you're like, you already are like wanting to be the best. So sometimes negative feedback is good because you're like, okay, I got to fucking work on this. Like, But there's, I think, most individuals that are trying, especially jiu-jitsu, because a lot of people are also nervous about trying it or get into it. So if you're in there negatively reinforcing them, like, nope, that's not the way, you know, then they're probably not going to come back. But if you're like, hey, man, no, and I do it with shooting all the time too. Believe me, I'll be instructing people. It takes a lot of patience, and you're just like, dude, half the time in my brain, I'm like, bro, you're hopeless. But I will sit there and be like, hey, you're doing good. And eventually when you give enough positive affirmation, and then they start getting more comfortable, and then all of a sudden they're on, and you're like, there it is, you know. But a lot of it is patience.
Yeah.
And
I think also you're going to teach someone differently if you're training them for combat. Or if they're, you know, they're coming in just for the day to learn how to shoot for the first time.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important too as coaches, especially in a sport like jiu-jitsu, where your business model is like 95% of the people that are there aren't really even trying to compete. They're just doing it as a hobby.
Yeah.
So for those people, you know, I put on a little more of a friendly face. I try. And then the guys that come to me and say they want to be the best in the world, or, you know, they're trying to be a competitor or whatever, I'm a little bit more real with those guys.
Which you should be.
Yeah.
It's the same dynamic. I think, well, Dave hasn't seen it, but when I was in and I was like, training dudes up to go on deployment. Yeah, there was no joking around.
You got to be all in. Yeah.
Like, dude, because it's a life and death scenario. It's like, dude, if you don't take this seriously, you could come home in a pine box. But, you know, that's needed. And same with, you know, competition, like what you're talking about. If guys are wanting, like, hey, I want to get in the ring, it's like, well, then, okay. Then the fun and games are over. Yep. Like, we are training to win. Yeah.
Yep. And my biggest thing, too, that I hate is just guys, between MMA and jiu-jitsu, it's just a lot of guys that they just kind of want it. It's so common.
Yeah.
Guys, like, they kind of want it, but they don't, like, really want it.
Why? Like, how is that? Because I've heard that also. Because I went and did a week at America Top Team, and they just let me come and train, and it was real cool. Like, you know, nothing too crazy, but I was talking to the guys that own it and some of the coaches, and they were talking about mindset. And they're like, dude, some of these guys don't have the mindset to like really put in 100% effort. It's, they kind of said the same thing you did. They're like, yeah, I want it, but I also want to do my own thing. And there's not that like total commitment. But in my mind, I'm like, because that sort of blew me away when they told me that. Because I'm like, dude, these guys are training to go in the cage to face another human being. You would think like,
these aren't hobbyists.
If I had to do that, I'm like, then this is all I want to focus on. Nothing, everything else in my life is like second or third,
Yep. I think a big problem now is just like with social media, and people are just kind of doing it for the content, for the likes and stuff like that. And then like the biggest thing, which I hate, and I might like get a little bit of flack for this, but it's like if you have a friend that's trying to be a world champ and they go to a tournament and they lose in the first round, like you shouldn't be telling them congratulations. You shouldn't be, because then they're getting the dopamine hit without getting the result. So then you're comfortable not getting the result because if you get it or not, you're still going to get the dopamine hit. Yeah. Right. So one like quick story I'll tell you. In 2019, I was a brown belt. I had been a brown belt for like 6 months. I won the ADCC trials. I moved to train with Caio Terra full time. I had only been kind of like dropping in at that point. Like I would come for a few days and leave and stuff like that for like a month. So I'd only been there in and out for like a month. And then basically after I won the trials, they kind of like offered me like room and board. They offered me like a couple classes at the gym. They wanted to like kind of recruit me there. Mm-hmm. So that's, as soon as the trials ended, I like put my PlayStation and a TV in my car, and I like just filled up my car and moved to San Jose. So I was training there for like maybe like 6 months or so for the ADCC World Championships. When you win the trials, you get to go and compete at the World Championships. The World Championships, especially at that time, was the #1 pinnacle in no-gi jiu-jitsu, right? I mean, even today is pretty much like the pinnacle. So, I was like one of the lower seeds in the bracket. I was like a fresh brown belt competing against the best guys in the world. And I think I was like the number 13 seed, right? Mm-hmm. And then at that time, Craig Jones was the #1 seed in my bracket. So me and him competed in the second round, and we had like a really good match. Like he was attacking me a lot at first, and then there was like a moment where I had taken him down, but I didn't get the points. I like kind of got screwed over because he was like the more popular guy, and then, in like the last minute, I tried to take him down again, and then he submitted me. He guillotined me, right? Mm-hmm. So, and he was the #1 seed. I was the number 13 seed. The whole crowd was going crazy, and it was a great experience, especially for where I was at the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like obviously I wanted to win, right? When I got back to the gym, everyone was posting everything on social media, how good the match was, because everyone thought Craig was just going to like
annihilate you.
Yeah. So I'm getting all this, support from everyone, which I appreciate, all this love from everyone saying it was such a good match and this and that. When I walked into the gym for the first time the next week, applause, the whole gym started, standing ovation. Everyone clapped when I came in, right? I was like feeling really good about everything. Like, oh yeah, I did really well, Sat down next to my coach Caio, and we were kind of talking a little bit, and so many people had told me they were proud of me, and I asked him, I was like, yeah, I know I didn't win, but are you proud of, at least how the match went? Like,
yeah, my effort.
Are you proud of like how I did? I did pretty good, right? He's like, Mason, it doesn't matter. You lost. And I just looked away. And I was like, at the time, I was like, fuck this guy, And then I asked him, I was like, don't you think it was still good? Like the performance, don't you think the performance was still good? And it was still like a net positive for me. Everyone's telling me congratulations. People are telling me I did a good job. He's like, you know why people are telling you that? It's because they thought you were going to lose. So you did better than they thought. But I actually thought you were going to win. I believed you were going to win. And then I was like, fuck. And even at the time, I didn't really fully get it. But not, like me as the person I am today, 100% get it. And now I see it with the younger guys, It, like those people that are like telling you good job and stuff like that, they didn't really think you were going to win. You know, it's like the people that were really counting on you to win are going to be like, yeah, of course, they're proud of you for putting the effort in. They're proud of you for going out and competing. But at the end of the day, like, you still lost, right? So we still have to, like, you shouldn't be happy. You shouldn't be satisfied with that.
Yeah.
You should be like, fuck, I lost. Like, almost like depressed. You should hate it so much. And then that feeling of like, almost like being depressed after a loss or like being really miserable, that's good. We need that feeling.
Yeah,
that feeling is what's going to
you.
make sure we get back to work and we train harder. But when you're so content with losing, you miss out on all those emotions. Those negative emotions, those bad emotions are really what's going to take you to the next level. So you need those. You need those bad emotions. Even, I mean, I've heard DC talk about this when he lost one of his fights, and he said that he really just let himself feel all those emotions. He's like talking about sitting in a dark room and letting himself be sad and be depressed. Like, you want those feelings. And there nowadays I love that everyone's more aware about mental health and stuff like that. And I love all the, positivity and not being too hard on yourself. I love that. But you can't get too drawn into that.
No.
You can't pat yourself too much on the back. You need to have those negative emotions.
Yeah, that reminds me. What you were talking about reminds me of it's one of my favorite movies. Gosh, and I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank on the title. Have you ever seen that movie where the kid is learning to play, or he plays drums, but then his instructor or whatever is like a complete dick? It's like the whole movie is surrounded around that, where he's trying to make it into this like prestigious band, and this dude that runs the band is like a Nazi, and he's over the top mean to everybody, right? Like, if they mess up, he's just calling them faggot and like whatever else, and just but it's such a good movie. Yeah. But there's a quote, so like the kid ends up quitting, right, because he had put so much time and dealt with all this guy's negativity, and then the guy drives him to quit basically. And then he runs into the guy at a bar like a year later, and he sits down with him, and the dude tells him, he's like, you know what the two most dangerous words in the English language are? And he was like, what is it? He's like, good job. And he was like, and he explained it. He's like, the second someone tells you, oh, hey, man, you did a good job, that's your cap. Like, you don't need to get better than that.
Yep.
And he's like, and that's what happens to people. And like, that's what it just reminded me, the way you were explaining that. And there's truth to it. It's like it reminds me of like when I was in the teams, I got hit on, a lot of being like a rough leader or whatever. And like, I wasn't, empathetic. And one of the examples that was brought up was, one of the guys came out to me, we were out training, we were getting our asses kicked in the 120-degree heat. And he pulled me aside. He's like, hey, I think you should pull the platoon in. And everyone's like worn out and tired. I think you should pull them in and tell them they're all doing a good job. And I was like, why would I do that? And he's like, looked at me astonished. I'm like, if you're doing a good job, then you're doing your job. I'm like, there's nothing extraordinary about it. I was like, if you're doing something negative or bad, then yeah, I'll pull you aside and say something. But you should always be striving to be better.
Yep.
And when you're constantly being pulled in, hey, man, you guys – and that's what I saw, the transformation in the teams too later on in the latter years when we would go through training. A lot of the cadre were very soft. They were like, hey, guys, great run. We just a couple, hits, and we'll just, but hey, overall great. Even though in my mind I'm like, that was a shitty run. We could have done a million different things better. It's like we went away from the bluntness of like, hey, you fucked up, and you need to fix this, or you suck. And you need to like hurry up. Like, this isn't a job where it's just okay to be, okay. You have to be exceptional. And in order to be exceptional, you have to put that stress and pressure on yourself. And especially in the game that you're playing, it's like you want to be the best. You have to put that kind of, stress and anxiety, depression, all those things come along with it. Yep. It's just the nature of the beast, and I think you just have to learn how to process those thoughts and actually use them to your advantage and not let them take you the other route.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in the first probably 2 years that I was training under Caio, we butted heads quite a bit. And there was times when I even was like, I don't know if this is going to work out, or maybe I'm not happy here, or blah, 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 blah. And I swear to God, I remember watching The Last Dance, the documentary on Michael Jordan. And as soon as I got done watching that documentary, everything changed. Because I was so combative, and I've always had problems with like a figure of authority, like authority.
I'm in that club.
Yeah. So naturally, when someone's telling me what to do, my natural response instantly is to go the other way. But after watching that documentary and just seeing like Michael Jordan's work ethic and the things that he was doing, because I was also in a phase where I was always kind of like, oh, I don't want to overtraining. My coach was really on me, like, you got to train more. And I don't want to overtrain, blah, blah, blah. After I finished that documentary, everything changed. And then it just started being like, he would tell me, all right, we're going to do 2 more rounds. And then it's just like, yes, sir. Go and do the rounds. I used to always, at the end of practice, like the last round he would want me to do, I would always be like, I'm pretty gassed. I would always try to get out of it. And then it got to a certain point where I just started, okay, yep. And obviously if I'm injured or something like that, then
you got to know when to take care of yourself.
I'll communicate with him. But yeah, I clearly remember. So any athletes out there, go and watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, and it'll probably change your perspective on things.
Oh, it'll motivate you for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and make you want to be a better human being. Yeah,
absolutely. It's crazy. There was many times that I was almost like thinking about trying to find another place to train and stuff like that because he was so hard on me. But it's a good thing I didn't, because I could have ended up at another gym where I was just one of the guys, and the coach didn't really care. Oh yeah, I could train when I wanted. That's not what I need. I need someone that's on my ass.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I remember it was one time because we would do a really hard competition class. Our competition class is like from 1 to 3, and then like there were certain times where I would either just kind of like lift after that, or I would just like kind of take the rest of the day off. And he was always bugging me to come to night class more. Just train with the students, and at least then you're doing more volume, doing more jiu-jitsu. He wanted me to be more technical. He wanted me to train more. So it was one time that I did a hard competition class, and I was just chilling, and he called me. It was like right at 7:00. It was his class. It was going to start at 7, and he told me everyone's lined up. Like you line up before jiu-jitsu. He's like, everyone's here lined up, the whole class, and I'm not going to start the class until you get here. So everyone's not going to be able to train until you get here. And I was like, fuck. Luckily, I lived like 5 minutes away, so I was there instantly. But that's the kind of stuff he would do. It wasn't acceptable. He was on me. It wasn't acceptable for me to not train, and because I had that, I wasn't able to like let myself be lazy. Yeah, because naturally we're a little bit lazy, right? So it's good to have someone on your ass that's like, when your ego is telling you don't have to train, that's like, no, dude, it's not an option. Go train.
That's like the difference between being great and being exceptional, right? Yeah. I was listening to like a Rogan had on a Fight Companion. They were watching the last UFC, but Gordon Ryan was on it. Yeah. And he asked him, I think it was Eddie Bravo was on there and asked him like, hey, what's the difference between you and this other individual or whatever, And I thought Gordon Ryan had a great answer. He's like, there's no difference. He's like, everybody that's at this level, they're all strong. They're all talented. We're all like of the same ilk, But he's like, the difference is how much work are you willing to put in every day and actually do the work. And he's like, and that's where you see the difference between people who are great and talented, and then there's people that are just exceptional. And he's like, and that's just because of the amount of work that they put into it every day. And he said, he's like, I train every day, and he's like, and that's why I have one up on these guys when I go and roll with them, because I put in the time and effort, and I'm confident in everything that I'm doing.
Yeah. Chael Sonnen has a great quote. He says like, you're either going to be undertrained or overtrained.
Yeah.
Like, which one is it going to be? Right. You might be a little overtrained, but at least your skill's going to be there. Your reactions are going to be sharp.
How is Chael?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he's just the best.
He's awesome, dude.
He's the best. Yeah, he's the best. So yeah, I think the show's going to be really cool. I think.
When does it air?
It's going to air at the end of May. It'll be on ESPN Plus and ESPN2.
And we're talking about the fight. What's it called?
The Ultimate Fighter.
Ultimate Fighter. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be Team DC versus Team Chael Sonnen. so Chael Sonnen used to have a jiu-jitsu league called Submission Underground, and that was where I first kind of like got my break in jiu-jitsu. I started doing that basically the year after that ADCC that I competed against Craig. I ended up like rematching Craig on Submission Underground, and then I had like a bunch of matches on the platform. I had like maybe like 13 matches on that platform, and Chael owned it. So every time I would compete, I would see Chael. I was like ended up being the champion of his promotion. So I built a really strong relationship with him. But the funny thing is that, you know, I'm in San Jose. That's where Caio's gym is, and AKA is also in San Jose. So I've went and trained at AKA with those guys many times, and I actually did a lot of my wrestling training at DC's gym. DC owns a wrestling gym in Gilroy, and he also coaches at Gilroy High School. So I go to DC's gym or Gilroy High School like pretty frequently, or I have in the past. I haven't went in a little while, but you know, there was times I was going there once or twice a week to wrestle. And so then DC's like, what the heck, Mason, what are you doing here? Because I was on Chael's team. But
look, I'm training.
Yeah, I was like, Chael called me, man. If you wanted me to be your jiu-jitsu coach, I would have been your jiu-jitsu coach for sure. Chael called me super last minute. He called me the day before the show started taping. Anyways, the way that I got out of it without feeling like too much of a traitor is just like, you know, DC and Chael are like buddies. They're like best buddies. So it's not like I wasn't on like the enemy team, you know. So it was cool. It was cool.
And you were being transparent about it. You're like,
How was it filming that?
Training.
It was cool. Yeah, it was cool.
Were you in the house with the guys and
no? So I had my own place, which was way better because, you know, when you're in the house, you don't have a phone, you can't watch TV, and then there's just cameras everywhere. There's cameras watching them sleep.
They still fill it with booze, and
I think they do. They have alcohol there. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the guys create some drama in the house for TV.
Yeah. So the guys, I mean, obviously when they were fighting, they wouldn't drink, but then as the tournament goes on, guys start losing fights and they get out of the tournament, and then they probably were starting to drink a little bit. But yeah, it was cool because I had like basically a little apartment with a kitchen, so I can still kind of like stick to my diet and my training routine. I have a friend, Andy Varela, that lives in Vegas, so he's a really high level black belt. Mm-hmm. So I was going and training with him a bit. I got a little gym membership, so I was doing my strength conditioning. So it was cool. The main thing that I hate about traveling is getting out of like my routine.
Yeah.
But when you're staying in one place for a month and you can cook, and I had a rental car, so
you can establish a routine there for that month and be like, all right,
exactly.
It's just that it always sucks like going to a place for 3 days or 4 days, because then
it's awful.
Yeah, you're like, oh, dude, like I get stuck doing hotel like workouts in the hotel room. I'm like, all right, I got to do something. So yeah, and you make it work, but at the same time, it throws you off your routine, and then you're like out of it for some of the day. Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad because I was able to still, you know, stick to my strength conditioning and stuff like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Some good guys in there that you got to know pretty well.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, it's like, you know how it is when you start training with someone, you just instantly become best friends. So yeah, I can't talk too much about who was on the team or anything like that, but definitely,
Did you get to watch the fights?
Oh yeah, I was cornering the fights, dude. I was going in the octagon between rounds and
that's sick.
You know, giving them water and stuff. So yeah, I've never had the opportunity to corner in the UFC before. Before I moved to San Jose and was pursuing jiu-jitsu full time, I was coaching at a gym in Fresno, and I was coaching some of the MMA fighters as well. So I corner guys in Bellator and stuff like that. But you know, to be there and be at the Apex Center and have, you know, Dana White's right over there, and it's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty cool experience.
Have you ever been offered or like ever thought about doing MMA?
Yeah, so this is the problem. This is the problem with me is that when I was 2-0, I was 6-0 as an amateur, and then I was 2-0 as a pro. And essentially the problem was I had a really bad like post-concussion syndrome where I wasn't able to do anything for like 6 months, right? And at that time, I was living at my parents' house. I was 23, and I was just teaching a few jiu-jitsu classes at the gym. So I didn't really have like any career path. I put all my eggs in one basket. No college degree, nothing. So I had this post-concussion syndrome for 6 months, and during that time period, I couldn't do any type of physical training. I couldn't even go for a jog. If I would start jogging, I would get like super dizzy and stuff like that. Had really bad light sensitivity, and you know, all that. There's a lot more research now, but at the time, I mean, this is like 10 years ago. You go to the doctor, and they're just like, yeah, we don't. I mean, you just have to rest, and it might go away, or you might just be like this forever. So that was a pretty big reality check for me and a pretty big scare. And my thinking was, of course, like it was my dream to be a UFC fighter. That's like all that I wanted to do. I put my whole life in that. But I was 2-0 as a pro. Most of the time, you got to be like 7-0 just to get into the UFC.
Yeah.
Right. And at that time, to go from 2-0 to 7-0, I would have had to done at least 5 full training camps, 5 fights. I would have had to win them all. And then I would have been making, you know, a couple grand per fight for those 5 fights. So I'm like, what are the odds that I'm going to go back to training? It's going to take me at least 2 years to do 5 more fights. I was like pretty good at the time. Like I was like an up and coming fighter. I had like I was pretty skilled, striking and obviously I'm known for my grappling now, but at the time I was doing a lot of striking. My striking was pretty damn good. So then boom, I have my 5 fights and then I get to the UFC. Now every fight's going to be a tough fight. I'm going to be taking damage every fight. And then what? You got to win. You know, if you win 5 or 6 or 7 fights, you might get a title shot. And then you're finally going to make $1 million payout if you win the title. And so it was just like the risk to reward ratio was so bad, knowing that at any time during a sparring session, I could just get hit the wrong way and then I'm out for another 6 months.
Yeah.
Or maybe the next one lasts a year or 2 years. And I was doing all this research and I was reading all these stories about this race car driver, this football player, post-concussion syndrome. He's had it for 3 years and he had to go to all these specialists. And I didn't have the money to do all that stuff. I'm like, I felt like I would have been pretty much screwed if it would have came back. There's a pretty good chance it would have came back if I would have.
Well, once you get your bell rung, it's a lot easier to get your bell rung again. Yeah. Your brain is now like it happens with guys in our profession too. It's like once you take a concussion, it's a lot easier to get concussed again and by a lesser explosion, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, yeah, in your profession, obviously, you probably know a lot of guys that are struggling with stuff like that.
Oh, I'd say 95% of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and so luckily I had a good friend named Sean Day, and he served, I believe he was a SEAL.
I know who Sean Day is.
You know Sean Day?
He had a brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Day.
Yeah, Mike Day. Yeah,
he was shot 27 times.
Yep, that's him. That's his brother.
Yeah, I know. I went to breacher school with Sean. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know much about his story?
Not Sean's. I know his brother. Obviously, his brother took his life 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't. I went to breacher school with Sean. That was about 4 weeks, and then I hadn't, been in contact with him since.
It's so crazy that you know him. Yeah. So Sean trained jiu-jitsu with us at our gym in Fresno. And he was one of the main guys that I was talking about a lot through this time period, because I didn't, there's not too many guys that have experience with that type of stuff. And our boxing coach, his name is George. He was going through the same problems where he had basically a post-concussion syndrome that he had been dealing with for like 5 or 6 years. And so Sean actually referred him to a research facility in Texas. I'm not sure if
Yep, I know which one you're talking. I think I know which one you're
It's
talking
run by
about.
a former fighter. I can't remember his name. But there's a research center that I think the military paid for Sean to go there. Mm-hmm. So they have like a machine called like an fMRI that can see basically concussions in your brain. Like a normal MRI can't see concussions in the brain, but there's a machine called the fMRI that
I've had one done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what did they tell you?
Not what I wanted to hear.
You're fucked.
I got one done right before I got out, and then I went through all that crap obviously at the end, so I didn't get to see the results of it. But then the results got brought up in my trial. They had the doctor come in and actually give the results, and yeah, it was. I had at the time like 40 something concussions, and that was like what was annotated. And he was like, like a lot of my brain was black. That was like an
CTE, right?
Yeah, and they were like, yeah, he's basically what came out of it. They were like, the chances of him getting Alzheimer's is like up there. It's high. Like most likely he'll have it. When
Are you doing nicotine?
Older.
Nicotine's supposed to be good for actually fending off Alzheimer's.
I'm addicted to nicotine. I got nicotine gum in right now.
It might be good for you.
I do a lot of things right now to sort of like a lot of stuff that I take is to prevent that from happening. Especially my dad has Alzheimer's. He's going through it right now. And so, yeah, like I don't know if it's going to be hereditary or it doesn't matter because I did the damage to myself. And so, yeah, a lot of the measures I take now, I take a lot of, the mushroom, all sorts of, mushroom extracts every morning. I do creatine. And then the nicotine gum, like I'm like big on the neural stimulants try and just keep that going. But then a lot of it is not even the stuff that supplements you take. It's the routines that you try to put yourself in. So like for me, I will try and, read for an hour a day. Like just doing something to where you are focused. And that really like helps out a lot. Cause I think with TBI or CTE, you develop and they're looking into this, but I don't know. I already had ADHD. Like I was diagnosed when I was a kid, but what they're finding out is due to all those concussions and like, especially with fighters, like they'll develop pretty much ADHD to where they can't pay attention and you can't focus on anything. And then you're constantly, because you can't do that, you're distracting yourself with the phone and like
100%.
Other stuff. You're like, oh, well, I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to scroll. And it's really like doing no good for you. So the main thing is like to take time out of the day to calm down your mind and just like read or do something, not be on the phone or watch TV or anything that's like stimulating you in that fashion. And that's supposed to help heal as well, heal the brain. And then also like playing little brain games and stuff like that to keep that going.
Yeah. So Sean referred first our boxing coach to that facility, and he went and paid. It was like, I think $20,000. Mm-hmm. He did like a 2-week thing. And they fixed him, but a lot of it too was like he was smoking cigarettes. He had a lot of bad habits, so he did all the testing. And there's a lot of things you can do, like eye exercises and probably some of the games, like what you're talking about. He quit smoking and quit drinking, and then he's basically fixed. It was like 5 or 6 years. A lot of it was just his habits and his routines and stuff like that.
And your brain can heal. That's the misunderstanding too. Just because it's like it can heal and repair itself, but that's a lot of it is due to the bad habits that a lot of us like the drinking and all that. Like all that just works against it, and that's a choice that you have to make. In the end.
I got super lucky that I had Sean to talk. I talked to him a lot about it, and then also to see one of my boxing coaches that was suffering from head trauma, and he was the guy that would get knocked out in training and then still show up to the fight and stuff like that. And so just having those people around me and being able to see those things, I was able to make the conscious decision, like I'm not going to fight anymore. And my biggest concern was really what I would do after fighting. You see a lot of guys, even if they're maybe like a mid-level UFC fighter, and then once they retire, they can't really use that skill set very well. It doesn't really transfer into business. Right? Yeah. You have the option of potentially being a coach or, doing private lessons and holding mitts for people. You can potentially open an MMA gym, but MMA gyms are tough because there's a lot going on under one roof. If you're running an MMA gym, you got to have wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. And then if you're the MMA guy, it's like you can teach any one of those classes, but you're not going to be the best at any of those classes. You're a jack of all trades, a master of none, right? So I was just thinking like, I can't keep getting hit in the head because I can't do jiu-jitsu. And if I can't do jiu-jitsu, I'll never be able to get like a black belt. And then if I don't get a black belt, I'm not going to be able to like open a jiu-jitsu gym. That was basically my whole mindset. Yeah. So I stopped getting hit in the head. I started training again. And then I just I was a purple belt at the time. I was like, okay, I tried it. Now I'm going to focus on getting a black belt. And then I'll just open my own school one day. That'll be my business. And then I just started jumping into some like kind of random jiu-jitsu tournaments once I was starting to feel like 100% again. And it was just for fun, like something to do while, I can't fight, but I can just do this jiu-jitsu tournament. It's still pretty cool. You get kind of a similar rush from it. Eventually we had our gym hired this Brazilian guy named Gabriel Fonseca. He's not like super famous in jiu-jitsu or anything, but he's a very high level black belt. He was like a referee for the jiu-jitsu tournaments. So he was like very knowledgeable in like the rules and strategies. And he was also like in the jiu-jitsu scene. So he knew who all the guys were and all the connections. He's actually the guy that recommended me to train with Caio. I didn't really know who Caio was before I went to his gym. Gabriel was the first one that recommended me to Caio. Because I was an MMA guy. I didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. I didn't even know really it was its own sport. Like when I was a white belt, I was and I would compete against guys, I would always ask them like, "Oh yeah, so do you fight too?" Like I thought everyone was doing MMA.
Yeah.
And then they just would do jiu-jitsu for MMA. I didn't even really understand that jiu-jitsu was like had its own like economy.
Yeah.
You know? So then when Gabriel came, he started telling me about the big tournaments. He's like, "Oh, the Pan Ams is coming up. You should go and do that tournament. Oh, the World Championships is coming up. You should do that tournament." He started kind of directing me, and then I just started like, I would just win these like massive tournaments. And he would be like freaking out when I would win. And I'm like, "Oh, what the fuck does this mean?" You know, I don't know what it is. I don't know, like the World Championships, I guess, like, you know. So it was like, I don't know. I got kind of just led into it, and then it was never like my goal or anything like, "Oh, I'm going to be the best in the world at jiu-jitsu." I just wanted to be a black belt for business reasons. And then at the same time that I started competing, jiu-jitsu as a sport really started to blow up. So I was at the right place at the right time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
What, 2012, 2014?
No, dude, I was doing MMA. I graduated high school in 2011. I must have really started competing in the big tournaments at like 2017, 2018. That's when I stopped doing MMA. I think it started doing the big tournaments. What was that 7 years ago?
And you were a purple belt when you switched over to Caio, right?
So Gabriel, I won like almost every major tournament at purple belt. I got double gold at the Nogi Worlds. I won the Europeans, and then I won the Worlds in the gi and got silver in the absolute. And then he promoted me to brown belt. And then I was competing at brown belt for like a few months, and then Gabriel left. He ended up getting an opportunity to go down to Jupiter and open his own school, and so he decided to leave Fresno and go to Jupiter. And at that point, I was like pretty much the guy in Fresno. I was like the only guy in Fresno, so I would be trying to figure out who to train with, and I was doing tournaments at brown belt, and I was kind of like winning some, losing some. I was doing that for like 6 months, and then I basically just had to make a decision of like, I was either gonna continue like stay in Fresno and just like make money teaching, or I had to leave. You know what I mean? So I just drove one day to San Jose and just checked out the gym, and kind of just everything kind of happens for a reason. It wasn't really like planned. I just went there one day to train, and then I made a bunch of friends, and then I ended up winning the trial. I didn't even know what the ADCC trials were. One of the guys at Caio's gym, I was training with him. It was on like a Friday, and he's like, "Dude, you should do the ADCC trials." He's like, "It's next week. Today's the last day to register." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Is it gi or no gi?" And it's like, it's a massive no gi tournament. I didn't even know if it was gi or no gi. Went and signed up on the last day, and then went and won it somehow. And then all of a sudden, I was kind of propelled into the jiu-jitsu scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool that it like happened organically like that, instead of being like pre-planned or like, this is, what I want to do.
Dude, nowadays these kids, I mean, they're dreaming about winning the ADCC trials from the time they're like 8 years old. They're like, their whole destiny is to win the ADCC trials one day. And I just kind of did it on a whim, but it also kind of shows how much the sport is growing as well.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Every year the trials breaks the record for like the number of participants every year over year.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like over the past, decade, I guess, almost, probably decade, that jiu-jitsu is just taken over. Like it's everywhere. Yeah, which is a good thing. That was just like here. There was nothing here when we first moved except for the Gracie one. But yeah, then
now there's like 4 others.
2-3 years ago, it was like 4 or 5 just opened up out of nowhere.
Dude, I go to some random places. I go to a lot of random places because usually it's random places that want to bring me in because there's not a lot of jiu-jitsu around. Mm-hmm. So I'll go to a lot of random. I go to a lot of random places, and then it's just like the mats are just full everywhere I go.
Yeah,
the mats are full.
Yeah, it's addicting too. I mean, people love it.
When you went over to Caio's, though, you told me like it's changed your philosophy around jiu-jitsu. It's like you're relearning it all over again. Or
oh yeah. I mean, I have a few like core things that I was kind of already doing that just got better. Like like I always had a good triangle, but it's like my understanding of the triangle and the concepts of like setting up the triangle and finishing the triangle now are like, I mean, I didn't know. I knew 10% of what I knew walking in. I used to just scrap. Like most of the time when I would train, I would just be fighting the other dude until he would break. And now it's become just like a lot more technical. Yeah. Now I try to beat people using the least amount of energy possible.
That's what I was going to ask. Like the better you get, it's all about just energy sustainment and like having the other person put out more energy, and that you do that. The way you get to that right is by drilling and like knowing like certain positions where you're like, okay, I don't got to work here.
Yep.
And then knowing when to actually put the energy in to finish or get to a better position.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, there's a couple things that I kind of maybe came up with on my own. Like the way that I pass a lot of the time is something that I just kind of naturally started doing. My bottom half guard game when I wrestle up to the single leg is something that I got from Gabriel initially. But a lot of the concepts from the curriculum I've been able to just kind of add in to my own game in one way or another. So, and it's crazy how like sometimes I'll be going against like a top 10 guy in the world, and then I'll hit something that's just on like our intro class, like our fundamentals class, that like white belts when they're first learning jiu-jitsu, this is what they're learning. And I'll just like hit the move like step by step on like a top guy. So there's like a big misconception about like fundamentals. Like no one ever wants to learn fundamentals, but like good fundamentals should work on someone, whether it's like their first day or whether they're a black belt. Mm-hmm. Everything in the curriculum is meant to work on black belts. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So just being able to teach. One thing that I really like that I hated at first is that, you know, you have to teach the curriculum. So when I have a class, let's say I have class tonight at 7 p.m. Before I teach the class, I have to go online and see what lesson it is, right? And then I have to go, Caio has like an online training platform called like CaioTerra.com. So then I have to go to CaioTerra.com. I have to find the lesson, and then there will be like 4, 5, 6 videos. And then I have to go and like I take notes on my phone and I watch each part of the lesson. And I used to hate it when I first got there, but now I actually like it because it really forces me to study and like really memorize and learn the technique.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for me, like I said, like we're talking about ADHD, right? It's hard for me to sit and focus on something. But when I have that pressure of like, I have to teach the class perfectly.
Yeah.
Then I really have to learn it so that I can teach it. So being able to teach, even if it's just a few classes a week, really has helped me to understand the concepts of the curriculum. And it just keeps me sharp too. Even if I've seen something like 20 times, I'll still have to review it before I teach it. I can't just go there and bullshit the lesson.
Yeah. And plus you don't want to, like you said, you want to put out the right information and be able to have people be able to pick up what you're putting out, right? And you disseminate the information in a way that people can understand. But the only way that you can do that is actually knowing like what you're putting out, the whys behind it, and that, like you said, and then the foundations, right? It's the same, like I always, relate it to, but it's the same with everything that we do. It's, when we teach CQC, it's like we will just do the foundations over and over and over again. And then you can start, pushing forward from there. But everything that you do inside the house or whatever, you have to explain the why behind it. Like you're not just doing it to do it. And the only way that, and I found the only way that I got really good at it was when I became an instructor, because I'm like, now I have to disseminate this information. Now I have to sound like the, subject matter expert at this, even though I'm not there yet. But I did the same thing. It forces you to dive in like, okay, I'm studying, I'm making sure I'm going to, be good enough to put out the information and be able to disseminate it in a way that people can understand it. And that's when I really started, you start picking up things from that. And then the next, when I went back to a platoon, I was just that much better at it.
Yeah. If you can teach something, that's like kind of the ultimate form of mastery, right?
Yeah.
So that's super important. Yeah. A lot of people will come up to either me or Caio with a question, and it drives both of us crazy because it's like, it's something that's already answered in the curriculum, and you never go to class. And then you want to like, it's like, go to class, bro. go to class, and then once you understand the building blocks, then we can talk about the next
The what
layer.
ifs.
Yeah, that's what anytime one of these guys comes to me, like obviously there's a few guys in the gym that I mentor, whether, you know, I mean, I got one friend that's like, you know, he's 30, he's married. He's not going to try to be a world champ, but he just wants to get to his full potential.
Yeah.
You know,
Wants to do good.
So he'll ask me little questions here and there. And he basically only wants to do no-gi. And I'm big. And if anyone disagrees with me, that's fine. You have the right to disagree with me. I'm very big on training in the gi, especially in the beginning. Like if you're a white belt, I personally think that you'll be better off splitting your time maybe like 50-50 between, even if you only want to do no-gi. Especially at our gym, because we don't have like a fundamentals curriculum for no-gi yet. It's something Kyle wants to do in the future, but we have a really, really good curriculum in the gi. And like the concepts will translate to no-gi. You know, it's not like every technique has a grip.
Yeah.
And even if they do, you can always translate it to something else, right? So, you know, whenever people ask me, the no-gi guys, it drives them crazy because I always tell them to go to the fundamentals class in the gi. But I really believe, like, when I'm training no-gi, I see the concepts. Like, it could be just a certain way to, like, frame someone when they're pinning you. And it's like that concept of framing is from the fundamentals curriculum. So, like, and I'm using it every day no-gi. There's just little things that I use every day in no-gi that I learned in the gi. So I'm like, dude, go to the gi class, do the fundamentals, learn the fundamentals like the back of your hand. You don't have to train no-gi every day, twice a day to be good at no-gi. And my argument is most of the top no-gi guys, they at least like trained in the gi long enough to get their black belt. Like Gordon. Gordon used to do the gi all the time. He started out like with the gi. The only really good example that I can think of is Nicky Rod. Like Nicky Rod never put a gi on. But Nicky Rod is also like a freak athlete. So
he had a wrestling background too, right?
He had a wrestling background. He's a freak athlete. But you know, you look at like JT Torres is like a no-gi legend. Came up in the gi, still trains in the gi. Gary Tonin doesn't train in the gi anymore. Another no-gi legend, but used to always train in the gi. I think he competed in the gi. Craig Jones used to train and compete in the gi. Craig Jones competed in the gi a fair amount, I think, at the lower belts.
If you've been doing it for a long time, you pretty much had to. Back then, there wasn't a lot of no-gi. Right?
I just think it's good. I think it's good to train in the gi because you can't use as much athleticism and you can't slip out of things, right? Because of the friction, it's just it's so much more. It's so much harder for someone that's not as technical to beat someone that's more technical. So like if I was going to have a match against someone, let's say I'm going to have a match against Bo Nickel, big, strong, athletic wrestler. If I had a match with him in the gi, it would be a lot easier than a match no gi.
Yeah.
Because of his athleticism, he's going to muscle out of a lot of things. He's going to scramble out of a lot of things. He's going to slip out of a lot of things. And he's still going to muscle out of some stuff in the gi. It's still going to be tough, but it would look a lot different.
Yeah. Well, because
You know what I mean?
you have all that fabric to grab onto.
You have the fabric, you can slow it down.
Yeah.
You can't rely so much on like the slipperiness of it. So yeah, with that being said, I think that if you want to be good at no-gi, again, my personal opinion, feel free to have your own opinion. It's all good. Everyone has their own opinions. My personal opinion that I always tell people that come to me for advice is even if you don't ever want to compete in the gi, just train in the gi. Like, it doesn't have to be 50-50. It can be a few times a week, but I think it will help you out with slowing the game down and just being a little more technical.
Well, I think advice like that coming from somebody who's at the top of the game.
Yeah, but who the fuck am I, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Have you thought about having a match with Bo Nickel? I never thought about that.
No, I was gonna say a big, strong blue belt wrestler.
Yeah.
And then Bo Nickel popped into my head. So he's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Even like a Kamzat or just like a stud athlete, a freak athlete, Nicky Rod.
Yeah.
If Yeah, how was it with Nicky Rod having the match with him?
It was good. It was good and bad. I mean, I definitely felt more in control. I felt like it was good until it wasn't. He just he's a gamer, dude. He's a gamer. He's a tough competitor, and he's a stud athlete. He played a lot smarter than me in the sense that he conserved a little more to the end. Yeah. I was too concerned with forcing action in the regulation time when there was no points on the board. There was no ability to score points. I think I should have just conserved a little bit more. With that UFC Fight Pass scoring system, basically there's like a 10-minute match, but it's sub only. And then there's a 1-minute break. If no one submitted each other, there's a 1-minute break, and then you do a 5-minute overtime with points.
Oh, shit.
And so what I've noticed a few times, it happened in my match with Pedro Murillo, where he was a lot more dominant in the submission-only time period, but then I came on real strong in the overtime. And the same thing kind of happened on the flip side with me and Nicky. Like, if you would have judged the 10-minute regulation period, I would have won for sure. But it doesn't matter. It's sub only.
Yeah, and he knows that, so he's like, I'm just gonna conserve.
And he was able to
survive.
score.
Yeah.
He was able to score at the end, and he was super slippery. Everyone always like accuses him of like greasing or putting lotion on. I don't know if he was like super sweaty, and he's a wrestler, and he probably shaves his legs. So I'm not gonna like sit here and say he cheated or he greased or anything like that because I don't know, and I don't want to like come off salty.
Yeah.
He was slippery, but Nogi's slippery, Nogi's slippery, and he's slippery in the sense of like not like that he was greasing, but he just fucking slips out of things. Mm-hmm. He has a really fast. He's an athlete. He has a fast reaction time. You can get 90% of a move, and then he just slips out at the end. Mm-hmm. So it's just he has a good awareness, and he has a good ability to scramble, and he had a good gas tank too. I was really concerned with coming in big and strong. It's one of the biggest that I've ever came into a competition, and I didn't put enough emphasis on cardio. I really wanted to make sure he didn't bully me.
Yeah.
So I felt super strong. Like, I didn't feel like he was stronger than me. But, it's a 15-minute match. In those last 2 minutes, he definitely was fresher than me. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a little bit of a mistake. I think I should have put just a little bit more emphasis on cardio.
Yeah.
You got a lot of praise from it, though. I mean, a lot of the community was saying you were really going for submissions. You were really trying, and that he was stalling.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it stalling, but at the end of the day, it's like he won, right? So all's fair in love and war. Like, I was definitely more active in the regulation, but it's smart. I mean, I did the same thing when I competed against Murillo. He was more active. I wasn't very active in the regulation. And then I ended up tapping him in the overtime. Yeah. And we saw this actually in his next match as well against Victor Hugo. So Nicky Rod had another match against a good friend of mine, Victor Hugo. And this dude, Victor Hugo, is just like, he's like the Brazilian boogeyman of jiu-jitsu. Like, he's 265. He's like 6'3". He's just a big old Brazilian dude. And he's beaten Nicky, I think, twice before this match. And everyone thought Nicky's been on a roll lately. He won like $1 million tournament. He beat me. He's been basically beating everyone. And Victor came in as an underdog, even though he's beaten him before. And if you go back and rewatch the match, you're going to see the same exact thing on the opposite side now. Nicky was up in the regulation. Victor was playing more patient and reserved, and then Victor ended up tapping him in the overtime. Yeah. So it's crazy. You've been seeing this theme, and it's like, it sucks because, jiu-jitsu is one of those sports that it can be very boring. And so I think there's a lot of emphasis, especially when we're on a big stage like UFC Fight Pass. There's some emphasis to make it exciting. Yeah. But it's almost like you got to like kind of play chicken a little bit. Like,
well, then because they implement certain things like the 10-minute submission and then overtime on purpose to make it exciting, because they're like, hey, if you get the submission in the first 10 minutes, which they think is going to force people to like really go at it. Yeah, but fighters are smart and they're like, all right, well then I'll just game it a little bit in the first 10 minutes, not get submitted, and then I'm just going to go for broke in the last 5, and hopefully the guy that's going against me doesn't, like you said, doesn't have the gas tank to stop me in the last 5 minutes. And so I can imagine that's got to be pretty tough, like especially going into that first 10 minutes, like, okay, what's this guy going to do? How am I going to do this? And I don't know, like it's not just straight what everybody thinks. It's like, let's fight and go. There's a game plan.
No, it's all about patience. Any combat sport is 100% about who's going to get tired first. Like a good wrestler, good luck taking them down when they're fresh. You know, you gotta like you'll shoot just to make them defend to get them tired. Sometimes you'll shoot with no intention of even finishing the takedown. You know?
Yeah, just to keep him busy.
Yeah, I'm shooting. I'm on his head. I'm pulling him down. I'm not really trying to pull him down. I'm just trying to make him tired. Same thing in boxing. You see Floyd, he'll sit there like this for 4 rounds.
Yeah, it's tactical patience.
He's like, go ahead, hit me. Defense, defense, defense. You know, and then he'll just hit you a couple times, saving energy. Just score. All right, back to saving energy.
Yeah.
Like your match in the previous Fight Pass with, he's a B team guy, I think, that you were like weighing. Y'all were just
Haizam.
Yes.
Haizam. Yeah.
Yeah, like y'all were stand up for a while.
Yep.
Like weighing down on his head, like weighing down.
Yep.
You're just wearing him out.
Yep. So same thing. But like in that match, it was a bit more exciting just because I was able to kind of get him tired a little faster. I was on him right out the gate, hand fighting, and I could see that he fatigued a bit faster. But some of these guys, it's like, you know, you're hand fighting them. 6 minutes later, you're like, shoot, I'm pretty tired. You know, I wonder how tired he's getting, you know? So it's just one of those things. I do remember, it's funny because at one point in the match, I was kind of playing bottom half guard. And, you know, the way that I felt that Nicky was playing, his main goal in the regulation was to be heavy on me. He wanted me to carry his weight. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times when you're playing like that, you're kind of welcoming the guy to try to sweep you. He wasn't being so defensive towards the sweep. His main goal was just to be heavy. So I was feeling that I could come up, you know, I attack with the underhook from bottom half guard. Underhook in the leg, wrestle up. That's my game from bottom half guard. And I felt like I could pretty much do it at any time. But the problem was I would get a good attack off on him. Maybe, you know, there was one time I put him down, got to his back, then he just fucking scrambles out. And then I'm like, fuck, I did all that, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't score anything. I can't, even if I could score, there's no points in this
I
period.
did all that work. I don't want to keep doing that.
Yeah, you don't want to keep doing that. So then I remember at one point I was on bottom, and you know, the whole match you're managing energy. So I was on bottom. I was just making sure he didn't pin me. I didn't want to get pinned. So I was just using my knee shield, keeping him away from me. And at one point, I was like breathing a little bit, and I looked over, and Dana White was right there. You know, he had popped in. He pops in sometimes just for, you know, 1 or 2 of the matches to see how it's going. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, fuck, jiu-jitsu's so boring, man. Like, I got to make sure it's exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, put on a show. Yeah.
And I seen Dana there, and I'm like, dude, I got to make sure he doesn't fall asleep during this match. You know what I mean? They're putting a lot of money into jiu-jitsu. So then I went and attacked again with the underhook, and, you know, even when there was maybe like 20 seconds left, I hit a big wrestle up, and I tried to kind of like dump him. A lot of energy. And I think that my mind was a little too much on like making it exciting or making it competitive. And the reason why I think that was a problem was because I was almost taking that as a win.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
When it should be like a win is getting your hand raised.
Yeah.
And this, again, goes back to like the culture of like, you know, it doesn't matter that you lost. It was a good match. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, fuck that, dude. You got to win, man. You got to win.
Yeah.
So I was almost, I think, in my own head about it a little bit because it was such a big opportunity. I was like the number 1 205 guy. He was the number 1 heavyweight guy. So I think I should have just put it in my head like, I don't care what the fuck happens as long as I get my hand raised. That's all that matters.
But that loss is like that's a jewel of like experience.
Oh yeah,
and you're like, boom,
oh, yeah.
now I have that under my belt,
Yep.
and really that's just going to propel you forward for the next one. You're just going to be better prepared and know like, hey, I'm not worrying about what the fans are thinking, like, or whatever. I'm going to play this for what it is and try and get my hand raised at the end.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing I try to tell myself too is that like, I'm like, well, like my fans and the people that are rooting for me, like if I win, they're going to be excited, right?
Yeah.
So let that be the exciting part of the match is me winning, me getting my hand raised. But I do like that. I usually have some good high level finishes and sequences, and you see a lot of the time too in jiu-jitsu, like you'll see these matches where neither guy really kind of scores anything the whole match. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to get too much into that mindset because it's just tough to watch, man. You get a 15, 20, 30-minute match where both guys, nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
And that's not going to do any of us any good. So
you feel like if it was EBI rule set and if you get a rematch and if it was EBI rule set or even no time limit submission only, do you feel like, hey, I could beat him?
Yeah. So yeah, with the EBI, I think my odds would be about the same, just because Nicky's also very good at EBI. It's not like I'm very good at EBI. I don't think I've ever lost it. I've never lost in an EBI rules match. I think the only person has a better record with EBI overtime is Gordon, but I think I'm probably number 2. But Nicky's probably number 3. Mm-hmm. You know, Nicky's right there, number 2, number 3. He's very, very good at EBI overtime as well. So that would probably be just as tough. I don't know if it would be easier or harder. And then no time limit, sub only. That's a tough one to like give my honest opinion about, because he's hard to submit, but he also, I think it would be really hard for him to submit me as well. The only thing that sucks about the no time limit is when you have a guy that's like known for his cardio.
Yeah.
And then you're like fucking 30 minutes in and you're like, oh my God,
yeah.
Like I cannot breathe.
And this guy's still going.
Yeah. So, yeah, no time limit sub only would probably suck, to be honest with you. But with that being said, it would suck, but I think my odds are probably about the same. I mean, yeah, I don't know. He definitely wasn't close to catching any type of submission in the last match that we had. He passed my guard, I got my guard back, and then the match kind of ended. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that would be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
How's the body holding up?
I feel 32 at least.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Are you taking that BioPro?
Yeah, I'm on the BioPro.
I am too.
Oh yeah, I've seen you on there as well.
Yeah, how you liking that?
Yeah, I think it helps. Really, the biggest thing is the sleep, man.
Yeah. Do you take it at night?
Yeah, I do the morning and the night.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, people ask me about it all the time. You know, stuff like that sometimes can be hard to really kind of like see. Like it can be hard to feel, but I know 100% that my sleep is better on it.
Yeah.
I'll give my guarantee to anyone. My sleep is better, and when your sleep's better, your recovery is going to be better.
And that's what I try and tell people too. Like I get asked, people are like, "Oh, is this snake oil?" Or what is, and then some people, they get it, and then they hit me up like, "Bro, I don't feel anything." I'm like, it's not a steroid, like it's not a supplement that's going to jack you up or make you feel something. I'm like, you got to give it time. Because I remember when I started taking it, it was probably not till 2.5 weeks. I was like, I woke up one morning and I started walking down the stairs, and I'm like, dude,
less sore for sure.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not in pain.
Yeah,
like because you're so used to just being sore and in pain and whatever. But I was like, dang, dude, like, and I attribute it to that, and which goes back to I was getting good sleep on it.
Yep.
And that's how your body recovers the most.
Yeah, and it's a natural alternative to taking HGH.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, you can go and take HGH if you want. But you have to, inject yourself all the time.
That, and there's repercussions if you're not doing it correctly either. Where you will end up getting like the Neanderthal, like looking like, because HGH, if you
makes
do
your
it,
head bigger, right?
Oh, it makes your whole skeletal structure, it'll grow.
Yeah.
Because you're putting human growth hormone into your body, so it's going to like do what it's supposed to do. And I think a lot of people take it without the proper dosage. I think they're like, oh, I'll just take HGH, and then you can see like, yeah, some of their own body parts get bigger. And
which body parts are we talking about?
well, not the ones that count.
Fuck.
Yeah.
All right.
Otherwise, I'd be injecting myself too.
Yeah. I was considering there for a second.
No, more like your forehead, and like your cheeks, or like sometimes you'll see dudes like jaws or ears, they'll grow more. I mean, they look different, and you're like, bro, that's how you can tell. Like Joe Rogan, for example, you can tell like he's on it. I mean, if you look at pictures of him before he was on it, now like everything is bigger.
Yeah.
Including his scalp.
Everything?
Well, I don't know about everything. We're getting into. We'll DM him and ask, but yeah, just like his skeletal structure and everything is a lot bigger. And I've seen it with my friends that have taken it as well, which I also tell people for BioPro, like it's a safer alternative, and you won't have any of those side effects.
So let me ask you this, because people always ask me if it's like considered like a PED or is it USADA improved, and I always tell them, I don't know, man. I'm in an untested sport, and they sponsored me, and so I take it. I never really looked into it. So, do you know? Is it?
I don't
think
know.
It's like kind of natural, maybe.
I think so. I can't answer that 100% either, because I don't want to be like, yeah, dude, take it. And then some guys are like, fuck, I just popped.
Yeah.
That's a good. We'll have to call them up and ask too as well, because
HGH is, but you're talking about BioPro.
HGH is a PED, but BioPro, it's a natural alternative.
Well, it kickstarts your body to start promoting or producing its own HGH.
Yeah.
So I don't see how you could pop positive for that if it's stimulating your body to create its own HGH. You're not introducing HGH into your body.
Yeah, but like there's things that are banned. Like in jiu-jitsu, everyone tests positive for clomiphene, right? Because you take clomiphene for your body to make more testosterone. But it's still banned. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, yeah, maybe.
That's why I'm like, I don't know.
But they ban all sorts of substances that shouldn't be either.
BPC
like
is
peptides.
banned.
Yeah, BPC 157.
BPC,
all that stuff they should be able to take, because that's just recovery.
Yeah, it's BPC has no performance-enhancing benefits whatsoever. It just heals you.
Yeah.
So if anyone is out there that's listening and you're an athlete, I mean, unless you got some super high morals about taking something that's on USADA's ban list, for me, this doesn't make sense. It's like, it's not giving any performance-enhancing benefits. It will heal you. It will heal your ligaments like twice as fast as if you don't take it.
It's like, do you want your fighters going in there with broken ligaments and torn muscles, or do you want them going in at 100% so they can fight each other? And there's no, like you said, you're not introducing steroids in your system. It's not making you like stronger or faster than the other person. It's just helping you heal to where your body's naturally supposed to be at.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, go and get some BioPro.
Yeah, definitely.
And get some BPC while you're at it.
Have you ever done NAD?
I haven't, but I would.
Yeah, I started doing it probably 6 months ago. So because you're talking about the travel, like traveling all the time, and you get sick. So I was like, dude, I'm tired of like.
So I do glutathione.
So I mix it with glutathione. Yeah. So I do NAD plus glutathione, and dude, I swear by it. I do it like once a month.
Yeah.
And I haven't been sick like through all my travel, and you feel good, and cognitively it makes you like you're on point.
I love glutathione.
Yeah.
Glutathione also has been shown to help with like head trauma as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So I take glutathione. The problem is you have to reconstitute it, and then you have to keep it in a fridge. So I don't take it with me when I travel.
Yeah.
I asked my guy to. I'm sponsored by Better Through Biology. They make glutathione. Mm-hmm. I asked him to make me if he could make me like individual doses, so I could just mix one dose at a time and take it when I'm on the road. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because when you're traveling is the time that you need glutathione, man. It's like, it's so good for you. It's so good for recovery.
There's a spray that I got from the place that I get the NAD done. It's a NAD and glutathione spray that you do like 12 sprays each morning. Tastes like berry or whatever, but I've noticed that helps out a lot too. Actually, Andrea got on it, and she's taking it now.
Someone told me that that you get just like 20 times the benefit of glutathione if you inject it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So I have the injection.
That or through IV.
I know IV would be a good one too. Yeah. I've gotten it done through an IV one time, but
IV is the best method to get it if you want it to work complete 100% through your body. And then obviously if you can't do that, the next step is injection. I've had injection with NAD once when I didn't have time to like get a full IV. And I know I was like, okay, I feel it a little bit, but I don't think it doesn't last as long, and it doesn't course through your whole body like it would if you got through an IV.
Yeah. What about L-carnitine? Do you do any L-carnitine?
No, I actually have a bottle of, or like a thing of it back at home. I've just never tried it.
Yeah, I do the L-carnitine quite a bit.
What does that do?
It's a pre-workout.
Okay. Pre-workouts to me don't like.
No, but it's not it's not like a pre-workout, but you take it pre-workout.
Do you?
I do an injectable form.
Okay, this is like a powder.
Yeah. So same thing. It's the same thing as like glutathione, where you get like 10 times, 20 times the benefit if you inject it, right? L-carnitine is something that I've taken. I mean, it's an amino acid. It's good for like, it was really good for cutting weight. I used to take it when I was doing MMA to cut weight. It just makes you sweat a bunch. It's really good for you cognitively. Helps you to burn fat, helps you to hold lean muscle tissue. It has a million benefits, but I would take a shot of that before like my hard training sessions. And then, I just feel fantastic.
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah, and then I do my hard training. I lift after. And then even when I get home and I start playing on the Call of Duty, I still feel like locked in. I feel locked in all day.
Just winning the war. You're like, yes. Yeah.
I'm playing make-believe of like.
Is L-carnitine banned?
No.
Okay.
No. So L-carnitine, glutathione, I'm not sure about NAD+, but I know L-carnitine and glutathione aren't banned. So even if you're a tested athlete, you can still take injections of that.
Which is crazy to me that that's allowed, but then BPC 157 is not.
Well, creatine too. There's injectable forms of creatine. You can do injectable forms of creatine, and it's not banned.
So I've just started doing creatine 5 months ago. Every morning I do a scoop.
Yep.
I've just put it in water, and then I got some of the gummies because I saw they did a study. It's like it helps you cognitively as well, creatine.
Yep,
and so
100%.
like if you're like, hey, you only got 3 hours of sleep, but you got to get up and work, train, whatever, the scoop of creatine will help you get through the day. And then I got the gummies, those creatine gummies, but I recently heard that when they bake the gummies, they bake most of the creatine out of it.
Oh, really?
So somebody was like, dude, it tells you to take 3 gummies. It's like take 8, and then you'll get what you're getting. But
I got a pretty good company. They used to sponsor me. They don't sponsor me anymore, but they just make, everything they make, their electrolytes, the creatine, everything's like super, super high quality. So I still I'll hit the guy up sometimes and he'll just send me some stuff or I'll just even buy it. But, you just got to get like a trusted company.
yeah,
You don't want to go for like a cheap like creatine from Walmart.
no,
You know what I mean?
You want to go for something that works. That's how I got with the BioPro. I was just given to me by a buddy.
Yep.
And he was like, try this, a Chad Robichaud. And I started taking it. And then I was like, dang, dude, like this actually works.
Yep.
So on my own, I just did like a post. I was like, dude, I'm taking this product. It works. Like I feel better. And then they reached out to me and they're like, hey, man. And then we started talking. But that's the only reason that I would even promote it is because I'm like, I'm taking it and I swear by it. And it works for me.
That's how I am too with BioPro, but then also with Better Through Biology. My strength and conditioning coach like owns the company, and I take the stuff every day. I live by it. I take his stuff every day. Glutathione, L-carnitine, it's all like backed by science and stuff like that.
Have you ever heard of a supplement or thing called Scorpion?
Yeah, it's bullshit, I think.
Is it?
The scorpion venom, yeah.
Yeah, it's like scorpion venom that you can take?
I think it's bullshit, yeah.
Okay.
What about the methylene blue?
So I want to try that next.
I have it at Dave's house. Yeah, I just started trying. I don't feel anything, but I'm traveling right now, so I've been taking it super inconsistently.
Did it turn your pee blue?
No.
I heard it does that.
Not yet.
Yeah. Suppose that stuff was like used to dye jeans.
Yep.
Yeah, and they found all these benefits from it.
Yep.
Who is it? Is it Brecca?
Yep.
Is the one who promotes it?
Yeah, that's who I got it from. The idea.
Where'd you get it from?
Amazon.
Okay, I might have to order some and see. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, just Amazon. So I'm not really sure what to do with it. I just been putting a couple drops in my water. I don't know the dosage, or everyone has different like.
Yeah, everyone's got
I scoured through Reddit, and one person's like, don't put more than 3 drops or else there's going to be serious problems. And then someone else is like, you have to do 60 drops. I'm like, dude, what do I do? Like,
probably I would look up Gary Brecka, and like he has to have something of like, hey, how he takes it.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's the one who really started promoting it.
that's who I got it from. That's who I got the idea from.
Yeah.
But then I just don't remember. I'm going to have to find the specific clip of him talking about it.
Yeah, I would look that up because
Yeah.
that's probably it's probably
Pretty
better than Reddit.
Yeah. I'm just putting like a random amount of drops in my water bottle like once every 4 days.
See what this does.
Yeah.
Just little chemistry every morning. Like,
Yeah.
all right.
You seen it, Dave? You seen I had the water bottle with the blue stuff in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was on the counter the other day.
Dude, I want to try that.
A lot of people
I'm going to have to
talk
order
about
some. Yeah. Sick, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming out.
Yeah, bud. That was awesome. Awesome conversation.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
Always a pleasure having you down here, man.
Thank
Seriously.
you guys for having me. I love coming down, meeting up with you guys, doing shooting.
How long are you here for? You're leaving soon, aren't you?
So I'm just going to Niceville on Friday.
Okay.
I'm just going to be staying there for until Monday.
Monday?
Yeah.
All right. Well, dude, next time you come back, go to the range or do whatever. Go shoot again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Throw the mats down after.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
A little knowledge transfer.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, man.
All right.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Out.
Yeah.
We're out.
Out.